Happy book club.
Bookie, girly pops.
We're back.
We've swapped seats.
Yeah, I came over. Danica was spread eagle on the couch.
Horizontal.
You look so comfy as well. It would have been a crime for me to make you move.
So comfy. Anyway.
It's literally day 2 of it being colder weather in Adelaide and you've got the heater on.
My heater is on a medium. The fake fire is burning.
I'm convinced it's real.
Oh, it looks nice though, hey.
Yeah.
It just sets the scene.
It gives heat, like it gives wood fire heat.
It's delicious.
Yes. I don't even, like, I have a space heater in my house and it's so bad we don't even use it.
Oh, no, I love this thing.
My house is like icicles in winter, but I love it.
Oh, no, I get quite fuftic because I leave that on for too long and then I get too hot.
Yeah.
Fuftic meaning like, you know how like when you have to like you feel like you're boxed into your own body, like you need to move.
Oh, no.
No?
I thought it was like when you feel sick from the heater being on.
Nah, like I need to move my legs. I feel like very, I don't know,
like
just
antsy.
Yeah, kind of.
Okay, interesting.
Anyway,
interesting side
cozy.
effect.
It's cozy.
Guys, here we are.
Hello,
now,
beautiful.
What a way to start.
That's how we should have started the episode, but anyway.
So, but we're stupid.
Idiots.
So what month are we? April. April's book club pick, for those who have been living under a rock, was Hello Beautiful by Anne Napolitano.
Yep.
Now, this was a Danica pick because I lost picking privileges in March. So the synopsis of this book, I'm going to read it super quickly. 4 sisters, 2 sides of a fault line. Can love make a broken family whole? Best friends and sisters, the 4 Padavano girls bring loving chaos to their close-knit Italian-American neighborhood. William Waters grew up in a house silenced by tragedy where his parents could hardly bear to look at him, much less love him. So when he meets the spirited and ambitious Julia Padavano, it's as if the world has lit up around him. With Julia comes her family. Sylvie, the family's dreamer, is happiest with her nose in a book. Cecelia is a free-spirited artist, and Emeline patiently takes care of them all. But when darkness from William's past begins to block the light of his future, it is Sylvie, not Julia, who becomes his closest confidant. The result is a catastrophic rift that leaves the family inhabiting 2 sides of a fault line. Can they find their way back to each other? And can love make a broken family whole? This book, this is very much, it's literary fiction or like fiction. So it's giving like Blue Sisters. It's giving Frankenstein, Cleopatra. This is like a modern take on Little Women, essentially.
Well, the author got inspiration from Little Women.
Yes, very much. Now, this book, oh my God, I loved this book. Like there was no tomorrow. So let's talk through it. So we start the book and we first meet William as a young boy. And we learn that 6 days after he was born, his oldest sister, Caroline, died at the age of 3 suddenly from an illness. Would she have like the flu or something?
It was something like, like pneumonia or something like that. Yeah.
Super basic. Anyway, his parents were so rocked by her death that they never recovered. And he basically spent his whole life being neglected emotionally because his parents were just rocked with grief and they never got over it. And there was one sentence as he like goes off to college, because the first part of the book, it's like a quick run through of his childhood. He like learns to love basketball because it's like the one thing that he can do outside that doesn't require his parents to play with him. And then friends. And then he like makes some friends playing basketball. He ends up getting really good at it. And he goes off to college to play basketball. And then when he's leaving, he was like, and this is not word for word, but he was basically like, my parents weren't even really sad because it was like they only ever had one child and it wasn't me. Yeah. Oh, and God.
Harrowing. Harrowing from the get-go. Now, I would like to say that the first chapter confuddled my brain because it was like 1970 something to 1980 something, and I was just like, does this man die?
Yeah.
I'm like, this man's off to college and something tragic is going to happen. Like, he's going to cark it somehow. No, that's just the timeline of the chapter. I was like, so confused.
Yes.
My mind read that chapter preface like a tombstone.
You're like already mourning him.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, this man has been through so much and yet he doesn't get to experience life. That's so sad.
I can't believe we have this whole book to go.
And then I'm like, wait a damn second. God, idiot.
No, he survives. So, yeah, he has like this whole love of basketball, goes off to college, is like studying, but he's there to play basketball. And he's in this class, and there's this.
It's like a history class.
Yeah, and there's this, because he loves history as well. That's his other thing. And there's this woman in his class who is that person that just loves to ask questions. And
yeah.
She's always got something to say.
Her hands raised.
Yeah, she's questioning everything
Yeah.
that's going on right now. And he's like leaving the class, and she comes up to him, and literally the only thing she says to him is, "Why are you so freakishly tall?" Turns out this is Julia Padavano. And then that's when we get introduced to Julia. And then we get introduced to the Padavano family, where it's like the synopsis says, Julia's the eldest. Then you've got Sylvie, and then you've got the twins, Cecelia and Emeline, and then their parents, Rose and Charlie. And they're like this lower middle income family that live in Chicago, this like place in Chicago. And they just like live in this house, and they don't have a lot of money, but they're super close as a family. And immediately it's giving like Little Women vibes.
Very tight-knit community too. Like, everyone knows everyone.
Love it.
Yeah,
That's
very
my dream.
Italian.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
hanging out with other kids in the neighborhood.
Yes.
Helping out the other, like, women and stuff.
Yeah, and like
Babysitting other people's kids on the street, you know, that kind of thing.
yeah, and their mum Rose, she loved gardening, and she would grow things that she knew that people in the community liked. So she would trade like certain things that she would grow for meat from the butcher and things like that. And they basically were living on like a bartering system to some extent, which again, my dream.
Slay.
So Julia decides, I love William.
Yeah.
He seems like the man
He's
for
normal.
me. Tick. Tall. Tick. Likes history. Tick. William makes like this passing comment earlier on that he's like writing this book. Tick. So she plans out their whole life together. She's like, this is the man for me. She tells William, you are the man for me.
Tragic flaw though, she like bases her love for him on his potential.
Correct. Yes.
So,
and as
something
Ariana
smells
Grande,
delicious.
He
I smell
smells
that. That
something.
smells yum. Anyway.
As Ariana Grande says, I saw your potential without seeing credentials. Maybe that's the issue.
Period.
And if you've listened to our normal episode this week, that's also a theme that comes up.
A theme in a book that I just finished.
A theme and a thing. It's
a tale as old as time, some may say.
period. So, and she like plans his whole life for him. She's like, well, if you're writing a book, because he doesn't really know what he wants to do with life. He is just so discombobulated with himself, has no idea who he is as a person.
But also, like, not really phased about it. Like, he's kind
No.
of like, oh, yeah, I should figure it out. But there's no real panic.
No.
He's just kind of very placid.
He's a doormat.
He's like, oh, I'll figure it out. Like, his best friend on the basketball team, he knows that he wants to become a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And he's, like, self-funding himself through medical school. And yet this man, not a Scooby.
William's like, yeah,
Dunno.
I'm just going to wake up tomorrow and see what tomorrow brings.
We'll see. We'll see.
So, no sense of urgency in this man.
No.
Julia doesn't really care about that. She's like, it's fine. You are writing a book. That's amazing. So, writing a book is kind of synonymous with becoming a professor. You're going to become a professor.
Yeah.
So, he's like, well,
You raise a good point.
you raise a good point. Don't want to have to think for myself. Love this.
Sounds like you've got a plan.
He suffers a major injury while playing basketball at college, which basically ends his career. So he'd never really considered that he would go to the NBA anyway. But he was really bummed out when he couldn't play anymore. So then he ends up like just doing his like history stuff, and then he becomes like a teacher's assistant or something. He's like got to fill the time. So Julia introduces him to the family like him, whatever. She's like, it's a done deal.
Yeah.
And she made one comment as well early on, like when they were dating. He was like, oh, I think this area is really cute, because she was really self-conscious about it. She was like, we're povo, like, and he was like, no, I love it here. Like, I would happily live here. And she was like, no, there is no way in hell that I'm staying here and living here. So William proposed. She has a timeline. So he proposes while they're still studying, and the plan is that they'll graduate and then they'll get married like 3 seconds after. So that all happens, and she's like, the timeline is coming together. We're engaged. We're gonna graduate from college. We're gonna get married. We're gonna live together. Like everything. He's gonna become a professor. Tick, 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 tick. So it like fast forwards to them graduating, and then the day of the wedding, and then so they get married. Whatever, it's this small little family thing. Everyone's happy. The Padavano family is thriving. Just after she gets married and she like moves in with William on campus, because they like get accommodation because he's like working for the college. Cecelia, one of the twins who is 17, announces that she is pregnant to a man that we don't know. Yeah. That is never announced.
Seen missing.
Julia is like, what the
flabbergasted.
Fuck? She's like, I'm the eldest. I should be the first one getting pregnant.
How dare you take my dream away from me?
Yeah, she's like, this is... No. So then they have to tell Rose, their mum, that she's having a baby. And Rose is like, get the fuck out.
Yeah. So turns out Rose has pretty much disowned her. What's the daughter's name again? Cecelia. She's like, yeah, essentially been like, you can't live under this roof if you're having this baby.
You either give it up after you have it.
Yeah.
Or you're out.
Yeah. And so she was like, okay, cool. So she ends up like moving in with her neighbor, or like someone that she did babysitting for or something.
Yeah, like a
family friend
of the family. And Emeline goes with her. She's like, well, because the twins are like glued to each other's
attached
hips.
to the hip, yeah.
And Emeline loves babies and like has done babysitting, so she's like, naturally, I'll go with Cecelia. And then Rose kind of like starts to. This is the point where Rose really starts to shut down, and she's like, Sylvie, I don't give a fuck about you anymore. You get out. Julia's already moved out. Like,
that's a little bit later. Because then Cecilia's like, lol jokes, I am an oven now.
Yeah.
I've kind of torn this family apart. So sorry, but this is my choice and this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And Julia's like, well, the world is in disarray.
I have to fix it.
Well, as the oldest child, it is my duty and my purpose on earth to make everyone happy and to make everyone a tight-knit unit. So how will I fix this? I will get pregnant.
Which is crazy.
And my baby will bring everyone together just like Jesus did. So she gets home, William's home, he's like cooking her dinner or something, and she's like, we should try to make a baby.
We should fuck.
Immediately. and William, being the absolute fucking doormat, he's like, in his head, he's like, I think we're moving a bit too soon, but there's a naked woman in front of him and he's only human.
He's like, my hands are tied.
What is a man meant to do?
He like has internal dialogue kind of a couple of chapters later where he's like, I don't think I ever wanted kids.
Yeah.
I don't want kids. And I was like, well, that's kind of something that you should probably
maybe play with the idea.
Yeah.
Maybe
you should verbalize that.
Maybe use your words.
Because you can't exactly return to sender.
Yeah,
once
exactly.
You can't Alt Control Delete that.
Yeah. So Julia and William, they get married and then they end up falling pregnant as well. And then time kind of passes and Cecilia's about to give birth. She's in the hospital. And Rose isn't answering.
Rose refuses to speak to her.
She hasn't spoken to her since she dropped the news, and Cecilia's like literally on the cusp of giving birth, and she's like, I just want my mum. I just want my mum.
Yeah.
All the sisters are in the hospital, but only one of them can go into the birthing unit, and Cecilia's like, Julia's closest in like personality to Rose, so I want Julia there. So Julia's there, also pregnant, but not about to give birth anyway.
Yeah.
And Cecelia gives birth, all's fine. She gives birth to a baby girl, and then everyone's happy, tears of joy, what have you. And then Charlie, the dad, rolls in.
Unexpectedly.
And he goes and holds the baby, and he's like, she's so beautiful. Like, you've done so well. Thank you so much for this.
Yeah.
And like hugs Cecelia and everything, and it's like this heartwarming moment where you think, okay, maybe like this will bring the family together again, and like Charlie will be the one to kind of like bring Rose back into the picture, because he's seen how beautiful both his daughter and now his granddaughter are. Like, it's going to be this beautiful thing. Anyway, he goes up, he leaves, he walks down the ward of the hospital, collapses and dies.
He has a heart attack and dies.
In a hospital.
Literally seconds after seeing, like,
when that happened in the book, my jaw on the floor.
I was
booking a dentist appointment immediately. I was like, sir, crazy.
The gasp I gasped was just like,
what do you, this beautiful moment.
Yeah, ruined.
Harrowing.
And like Charlie up to that point wasn't this like great character. He had like an alcohol. He was an alcoholic.
Yeah, you see him from everyone else's point of view, and it's very much like, you know, like dad was there but not really present. Always had a drink in hand. Always rambling about his poetry.
Always at the pub. Like worked this shitty job that mum was, you know, never 100% satisfied because he never made enough money.
Yeah.
And
Rose was always talking about how she was happy being married to Charlie, but kind of disappointed that he never reached his full potential.
Giving Julia.
Right?
Very
like,
much giving. That.
Yeah.
Make a post note about that, right? Because we'll come back to that. And the other thing that is a recurring theme is that we learn early on that Rose and her parents do not speak.
Yeah.
And she had feelings about that. And it's kind of expressed in the book from like the views of the kids that like, that's crazy. How could her parents not speak to her? Like, she has this beautiful family. Rose is like this great woman. How could they ever abandon their daughter?
Neck minute.
And then she does that to Cecelia without...
Tale as old as time.
So Charlie dies, and that is just like a gut-wrenching moment in the book. And...
because it's so softly done as well.
Yes.
It's kind of like he dies suddenly and then it's the funeral.
Yes.
And you're like, what the... we don't even linger on that for a moment.
Literally. So they have the funeral, and Rose, like, she was already going on one when Cecelia fell pregnant, but then to lose Charlie as well. So then there's like a chapter in the book after the funeral where it's Rose, the girls, and William at the family home. And Rose is like, I'm selling the house and I'm moving to Florida.
Yeah.
And they're all like, hang on a sec. William's like, this is a man that doesn't say shit. And he's like, you can't do that. And she's like, I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck about any of you. You can get out of my house. I'm going to Florida.
I'm selling up.
Yeah. She just was like, I don't have Charlie. Cecilia's fucking broken all the rules. I have no reason
and
to
this
be
is
here.
when, so it's just Sylvie and Rose in the house, and so Rose is kind of done with Sylvie shit as well because Charlie's not around.
Yeah.
And Sylvie kind of picks up that the reason that Rose doesn't like Sylvie as much as the other girls is because Sylvie is very much like her dad, like big dreamer, like has a bigger picture view on life.
Yeah.
Isn't very ambitious, like isn't career driven or anything like that, like doesn't necessarily want kids, like she's she works in the library as well, so she's like always got her head in the books, and
that's gonna be you. We're gonna get you a job at the library.
And just like the complete opposite of Rose, and so every time she sees Sylvie she thinks of Charlie, and she's just kind of like, nope, hate that. So
Julie,
again, family in disarray.
Julia starts freaking out. She's like, hang on a second.
Whoa. My baby ain't born yet. And she's pissed because she's like, what do you mean? I created this child to bring this family together and you're not even going to be here to witness the birth and help me? What the fuck is that about?
She's like, what do you mean that like everything's not going the way that I want it to? So
she's like, I need to sit down.
Rose packs up. She goes to leave. She goes to the airport. Julia goes to the airport with her, takes her to the airport. Cecelia shows up to the airport with Izzy, her daughter, and is like, if you're going to leave, you need to like have met your granddaughter. Yeah. Rose is like,
no, actually.
Get the fuck away from me. She's like, I don't give a fuck.
You can't tell me what to do.
Yeah.
And then she boards the plane.
She gets on the plane, double bird.
Yeah.
To Cecelia.
Literally.
Like, I don't give a fuck, right? And then when they go to leave the airport, Julia's like, this child that is in my belly that I made only to fix the family, it's coming.
She's like, Cecelia, both hands on the wheel.
Get me to the hospital.
We need to go to the hospital immediately.
So she gives birth to a baby girl, Alice. And then the birthing scene for this was crazy because it's like from Julie's perspective, and she's going on about how like she was in that moment, she was so primal and she was like making these guttural sounds, and I was like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Like, but for Julia, this was like the equivalent of taking acid in the way that it, like, her whole perspective on life
completely changed.
More than just the fact that she was a mother. This was the moment that she realized she didn't need William.
Yeah, and she didn't need a man by her side to do anything. She's like, if I want to do it, I can do it on my own.
Yeah, like there was a quote that I pulled from the book and like posted in the Fable when I was reading it, and it's from Julia, and it goes, she beamed at William and thought, I have never needed you. Did you know that? I thought I needed a husband, but I don't actually need anyone. I could have done everything by myself. And this really stood out to me because I feel like this is a common realization for not all women, but this is a common realization for women where they go and they get married, and then they realize once they're married that men, in most instances, are like having another child where they don't pull their weight or they don't actually add anything to their lives. And then they have kids, and the women go, like, besides giving me your sperm, I actually don't need you. Like, I thought that I would need a man, and I don't. I'm actually so more self-sufficient than I thought I would be.
It's like, that's always, not always, but that's how it goes when you try to kind of live the life that like society expects you to have.
Yeah.
And you don't take a minute to self-reflect and be like, hang on, am I doing this to impress other people, or am I doing this because I want it?
Yes. And because like your priorities change when you have kids. If you're with a man that isn't adding to your life and you feel like you're having to babysit, and like she felt like, and she realized this once she had Alice, that she was having to spoon feed the answers to everything to William.
Yeah, he couldn't make a decision for himself about anything.
And that's when she was like, I do not need you. And I just feel like that would really resonate with people in today's day and age, because like nowadays women are more financially independent and we actually have rights now. So I think I would say a big percentage of women who get married and have kids in their early 20s have this moment.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like, oh,
there's a reason like 50% of marriages end in divorce.
Yeah. So that was a big moment.
And that's kind of like ironically, like the birth of Alice, the miracle child that was meant to bring everyone together, is kind of like what draws Julia and William apart. Yeah, because William starts... like their relationship starts to crumble from there. He starts to crash the fuck out because all of Julia's attention is now on Alice. And Julia's becoming really short with William being like, you need to figure it out for yourself. Yeah. And then because Rose has sold the family home and gone, Sylvie essentially has nowhere to live. So Julia at this point is like, look, you know what? I'll need help with the baby. It'll be good to have you like hands on deck because William's fucking useless. So yeah. Come live with us. You can live in the lounge room and it'll be fine. Like it'll... like a roof over your head while you sort things out.
And because he never really wanted kids but failed to verbalize that, he's not doing anything with Alice. He
won't touch her. He won't, which is very much me with a newborn child. Like,
yeah. And
no.
Julia's picking up on it and she's like, that's weird.
Yeah.
So that's just another reason to piss her off.
Yeah.
So then he starts missing work. He's like meant to be giving lectures and he like misses one class. He falls asleep on like a park bench. And then next thing you know, he's missed a whole week of work. And Julia gets a phone call from one of the admin women who are like, we're a little bit worried about William because he's not showing up to work. And Julia's like, well, what do you mean? Because if he's not at work, where the fuck is he?
Yeah.
So then she defends him and she's like, no, you've got it all wrong.
Yeah.
I don't think you're talking about William. He comes home and she's like, oh, the craziest thing happened today. And she questions him about it. And his response is to go into the bedroom, pull out, like, write this note quickly. And then he comes out and he gives her a note and this other piece of paper. And then he just leaves.
Yeah. Before that, though, I should mention, because this will be important for the next bit.
Yeah.
Sylvie has forgotten her key to their apartment and she's sitting outside on this park bench. And William comes along because at this point he's kind of like watching the basketball team do their practices and stuff. And he's just, you know, taking notes and whatever, like not really doing anything, but just chilling out because he likes to be in the atmosphere of the basketball team.
He misses it.
Yeah. And so he comes back from practice and he sees Sylvie on the bench and he's in the midst of writing this book that Julia keeps harping on about, but he's insistent that it's not really a book. It's like a history of basketball, but it's not really. Like, I don't know. He's kind of like, it's kind of like my thoughts, but you're saying that it's a book. I don't know if I will ever actually publish it, but Julia keeps like pushing him to really work on it because she thinks that it'll be really good. And then she keeps nagging him to be able to read a copy of the manuscript. And he's like, it's nowhere near done. It's very, very draft. But she keeps pushing him and he's like, fine. So he gets it like bound up or whatever, gives it to Julia. Julia reads it. She's like, what the fuck am I reading?
She's like, this is the worst book I've ever read in my life.
Like, it makes no sense. And so she gives it to Sylvie because Sylvie is obviously really into reading and like works at the library and stuff. She's like, hey, can you do me a favor? Can you read this? But don't tell William that I've given it to you and give me your honest opinion because I don't know what to make of it. I don't know if this is actually going to be something that can be publishable, but like I want your opinion. And Sylvie's like, oh, I don't know, but yeah, okay, sure. She reads the book. She's on this bench. William comes by and he's like, what the fuck are you doing outside? She's like, oh, silly me, forgot my key. And he's like, what were you like gonna do then? And she's like, I don't know, wait for one of you to get home.
She's so like
she's just so type B. And anyway, they kind of have a moment because I think William picks up that she's kind of read his manuscript and he's feeling very vulnerable. And they're looking up at the night sky and all of the stars are there and Sylvie's just kind of having a moment being like, I really fucking miss Charlie.
Yeah.
And like the grief that she goes through, like she definitely, I feel like the grief of her dad dying so suddenly, I think that hits her the most.
Yes, I agree.
Because they were so similar. And they kind of have this moment where, and like William's just kind of in his head about this whole life that is kind of been passively built around him that he hasn't had a say about because he hasn't been brave enough to speak his fucking mind with Julia. And he's just kind of like grieving the loss of like the life that he thought that he would have with basketball because that's over now. He doesn't really have any direction in his life. He doesn't know what he wants to do. He has no idea what he's doing with this baby. And they kind of like grow a brief bond over that. And there's this moment where they're on the bench and you think, oh my God, are they going to fucking kiss? Like it's crazy. And then they're like, oh, let's go inside. And then ever since that point, it's been weird between William and Sylvie. Yeah. Like they're never in the same room together anymore because you kind of, from Sylvie's point of view in the chapters, you're kind of like, okay, she kind of has a little bit of the feely feels.
Yeah, she's like, it's inappropriate for me to be with him like by myself.
And William's very much the same. He's like, I felt something there, but I don't know. It's weird.
Yes. And like, Yeah, so he's like trying to get Julia to tell him what she thought of the manuscript, and she's just like dodging it.
Yeah.
Left, right, and center. And he starts to realize that reading his book for the first time, Julia has realized that he isn't who she thought he was.
Because the manuscript is very much like his thoughts. He's like, in one part, he was like, it should have been her. It should have been me, not her.
Yeah.
And like, there's a lot of footnotes throughout the book where it's just kind of like a journal.
Yeah.
He's just brain dumping everything.
Yes.
Every single thought must be written in this manuscript. And so it's kind of like reading someone's diary.
Mm-hmm.
And so... Yeah, so
he leaves.
He writes the note. He's like, deuces, G2G.
He's like,
hightails out of there.
We're getting a divorce. You can have full custody of Alice. Does not even fight. Here's a check for $10,000 that my dad gifted us for our wedding.
That I had no idea about.
I never told you about. I've never cashed it, but here, you have it. Doesn't actually say anything to her. Just hands her this stuff and is like,
walks out.
Peace out. Goes, leaves. Julia rings Sylvie and she's like, get a load of this. This motherfucker has I've caught him not going to work, and his response is to hand me a letter that says that he's divorcing me, leaving me. I can have full custody of Alice. Like,
he just gave me a check.
The audacity of this man is Julia's response. Sylvie goes, oh my God, is he okay? And Julia's like, what the fuck do you mean, is he okay?
I am the victim.
Yeah, she's like, why do we care about William? He's a bum-ass loser. Like, why are you even questioning if he's okay? So Sylvie goes over to check, like, to see Julia. And then she's like, I'm really worried about William. I'm going to go look for him. I'll be BRB. Mm-hmm. And she just hightails it out of there.
Because it's been like a couple of days since that ordeal, I think. Because I think Sylvie asked, she's like, when was the last time you saw him? She's like, when he fucking waltzed out of here a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
And then she calls...
Kent.
And that's William's best friend. And she's like, hey, have you heard from William at all? Mm-hmm. And he's like, nah. And she's like, uh-oh.
So
oh, dear.
They go looking for him because Ken understands that William has, like, a history of depression. Because he's had a few moments that, like, Kent's been around.
He's gone MIA before.
So he's like, no, there's, like, genuine concern here. So then Ken ends up rallying, like, the entire basketball team and all of these people that know William through basketball. And Sylvie's with all these, like, 6-foot-something men going through Chicago looking for him. And they're at it for, like, the book made it seem like they were out all day and all night. And then they come near, there's, like, this river, lake thing. They hear sirens going towards the lake, so they follow it because they just have a gut instinct. They're like, it's William. So they run over to the lake, and then as they approach, the paramedics are in the water, like, pulling someone out, and then Kent's gotten up there first because Sylvie's, like, slower. And he's like, Sylvie, it's William. So William's tried to kill himself. He has tried to drown himself, fully clothed.
In Lake Michigan.
He's like, I'm out of here, kind of thing. So Sylvie's, like, freaking out. They, like, put him in the ambulance, and the paramedics are like, are you his wife?
Yeah, only family can come.
And she just is like, yes. And so she goes with them, goes to the hospital, and she just goes along with this whole, like, notion that she is Julia, because she's like, someone's got to be with him, and Kent's like, he can't be alone. So she calls Julia from the hospital, and she's like, hey, so we found William. He tried to kill himself. And Julia's like, no, he didn't. She's
like, no. And they're like, and Sylvie's like, no, we found him in Lake Michigan, like, unconscious. Like, he tried to kill himself, Julia. And Julia's like, no. He just went for a swim. He's just a bad swimmer. Girl.
Julia does not give a fuck.
Girl.
She is, and you're seeing, like,
I can't swim.
Yeah, you're seeing, like, parts of Rose more and more.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Something chronic, hey.
So Julia just is basically like, nah, he left. Remember, he left me. And
Why
he
should
left
I
us.
care? He left me and my baby.
So Sylvia is like, well, I guess I'll just keep cosplaying as his wife. And then while this is happening, Julia is like, I need to leave. I need to restart my life. I can't stay living in this house because it reminds me of William. I need a fresh start. So there was this professor that she had that I think she did some internship work for because she wanted to get into business. And she rang him and she was like, give me a job. And he was like, listen, you're great at what you do and I would happily give you a job, but I'm actually going to New York for the next 6 months for a project. And she's like, I'll just come with you.
Cool, I come.
I'll bring Alice. I'll come with you. She somehow talks this guy into giving her a job in New York and like paying for her to move over. So she's like, amazing. In a couple of weeks, I'm moving to New York for six months, taking Alice, whatever. And I can't remember at what point she tells her family, but I'm pretty sure Sylvia is like, William tried to kill himself and you're just going to go move to New York. Like you can't leave us. Like Charlie died. Rose has fucked off. You know, we want to see Alice grow up. You can't just leave. And she's like, it is what it is.
Joke's on you.
So she hightails it out of there and she moves away. And then there's two storylines happening now where we're following a bit of Julia in New York, and then eventually when Alice gets a bit older, like becomes a kid or whatever,
she's about 6,
you start to see it from Alice's perspective, growing up, because 6 months turns into 18 months, turns into indefinite in New York. Meanwhile, Sylvie and William glued to the hip.
Yeah, she's continuing to see him, but her family don't really know.
Yeah.
Because she's like, this is inappropriate. He's conscious now. He's on the mend. He's medicated. He's seeing a psychiatrist. Like, he's got the help that he needs. He doesn't need me anymore.
Yeah.
And every day she tells herself, I'm not going to go to the hospital. And every day she ends up at the hospital.
Yes. And then at some point, they realize and admit to one another that they have feelings for one another.
Yeah.
And so she's kind of like, they're both on the fence about it. They're like, this is so inappropriate because obviously William was married to Julia, her sister. But she's kind of like, well, I've never felt like this about anyone.
She's like, you're the one.
Yeah. So
I can't help who the one is, but it's you.
Why should I miss out? Because Julia didn't like you. And so they start dating. And
first in secret.
Yes.
And then Kent finds out.
Yes. And he's kind of fine about it.
He's like, finally.
Yeah. And then they decide that they don't want it to be secret anymore. So they tell Cecelia and Emeline. And they were both kind of like, hang on a second, this is fucking weird.
Yeah. They're like, we need a moment.
Yes. But they come around. They get over it. They're fine with it, whatever. And there's another quote that stood out to me around this time, and it's like from William, and it's like, William felt a pang of guilt towards his ex-wife. He had given Julia and Alice up, and yet he'd ended up surrounded by the women Julia loved most. It didn't seem fair, but he would try to not think about it. Because he was still in Chicago. He had recovered, and he actually started to thrive.
He's doing pretty good.
He's now dating Sylvie. Cecelia and Emeline come around to the whole idea, and he's very much immersed in the Padavano family that are still in Chicago. And you know what? Yeah, he should feel fucking guilty because he tore that family apart in some way. And yet he literally broke up Julia and Sylvie, who were the closest of the sisters. And he is like, well...
But you could argue that Julie kind of did that herself.
I think, oh yeah, she definitely played a part in it. But I think had he not have started dating Sylvie, and this is also equally partly on Sylvie. Sylvie is not innocent here. If they hadn't started a relationship, I think Julia would have come home. At like a lot earlier.
Yeah.
So then she...
Oh, I don't know.
You don't think?
I feel like William still being in Chicago would
Yeah.
have deterred her enough because she was like, I don't want Alice to know who her father is.
Yeah, because that's the other thing. Is she tells Alice that he died in a car accident.
And this is the crazy part. So she gives the divorce, or Sylvie gives the divorce papers on Julia's behalf to William. And Julia is kind of like remaining in contact with Rose. So she'll call her every now and then. And she tells Rose that they're going to get a divorce and that they're separated and they're done. And Rose is like, no, you need to stand by your man.
Yeah.
She's like, the amount of times that I wanted to walk out on Charlie, you can't do it. Like, a good wife stands by her husband. Like, you can't just walk away from something that's so good. And Julie's like, what part of it is good? Like, I want to build a life for myself that William can't provide for me and Alice. I want to set myself up. What is wrong with that? And Rose is pretty much like, oh, him trying to off himself is just a blip in your relationship. Just
You'll
look past
back and
it.
you'll be fine.
You'll look back on this in a couple of years and laugh. Like,
Yeah.
it'll be a fun little anecdote that you'll tell the grandkids.
Rose is so unhinged.
And Julia's like, respectfully, absolutely not. Like, I've made up my mind. I'm moving to New York. Gotta go.
She does incredible in New York, though. She does what she set out to do. She built herself this incredible life. She ended up, starting her own business down the line.
Yeah.
She got to a point, I'm pretty sure they were saying she was making like 6 figures a year.
Yeah.
Like, in that time as well, like the 80s or 90s or whatever.
And so, like, Julia's in the midst of setting herself up in New York. She's live, laugh, loving. And Alice is 2 at this stage, and she calls Rose. And this is when she finds out that Sylvie and William are dating.
Yeah.
Because she keeps getting postcards from the twins, like with life updates and stuff on Izzy and like their life. And she calls Rose and she's like, I'm going to tell Alice that her dad's died.
Oh, yeah, because when does Emeline come to visit? Because they deduce that she's the best person to come and deliver the news to Julia. Is that when they start dating or when they decide that they're going to get married?
I think it's when they decide they're going to get married, because she finds out that they're dating in like a postcard or something.
Right, yeah.
And so Rose is like, respectfully, I can't tell you how to parent, but that's a crazy idea. And Julia's like, no, not like right now. Like when she's like 5 or 6, when she can understand and comprehend it. Not when she's 2. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And Rose is like, look, you do you, honey boo, but I think that's a dumb idea. Anyway, down the track, you also get the point of view from Alice when she's like growing up. So like, when she's 5 or 6. And Julia does as she foretells, and she tells Alice over breakfast that her dad has died in a car accident last year.
Yeah. That's it. And then so Alice goes to school.
Years later, when she's like 8.
And Julia gets a phone call from the school and they're like, please come to school immediately.
Please come pick your child up.
So she goes down there and the teacher's like, so all the students had to give a presentation on a topic of their choice. Alice thought it would be a great idea to give a presentation on car accidents and the statistics around car accidents. And it was so confronting that it has honestly traumatized the rest of the children in the class.
The teacher's like, she ended the presentation with pictures of car accidents. And you best believe I will be getting phone calls from distressed parents tonight saying that their children are suffering from trauma.
She's like, Alice is no longer allowed to pick her own project.
She has to run it by us
Yeah.
for us to vet before she can proceed.
Like, poor Alice. She was obviously like traumatized, but it was just so funny. Like the fact that she was like, guess what, everyone, today we're going to learn about car accidents.
And Julia pulls her aside afterwards and she's like, why did you want to do your project on car crashes? And Alice is like, I'm so sorry, I didn't realize it would upset the kids, but like cars are really dangerous and people need to know. People must know. This
Dada died.
This is a dangerous form of transportation. And Julia's like, what the fuck? And then she's like, wait, is this because your dad died in an accident? And she's like, well, yeah, they're dangerous. People die.
Oh,
so way to traumatize your own fucking child, Julia.
Literally. Like, this is all your fucking fault, Julia. So then the next like chunk of the book, we're just kind of following Julia, like Alice growing up, Julia making a life for herself in New York. Meanwhile, like William and Sylvie are live, laugh, loving. They're progressing. this is such a minor plot point, but it was one of my favorites, was Emeline and Cecelia, the twins, always super close, always lived together. They bought houses next door to one another.
Mm-hmm.
Loved that. And the way that they like knocked down the fence in the middle so that they can just come and go.
Made it like a duplex.
Yeah. Izzy had a bedroom in both houses.
Yeah. They call it like a super duplex.
Yeah. That needed to be highlighted a little bit more. I loved that. Another side plot point, Emeline, she is running this like daycare thing from the house, and she has this other woman that's like running it with her, Josie. And Emeline one day says to Sylvie and Cecelia, she's like, it was like they were sharing secrets because they were like trying to, I don't know, connect or get shit off their chest. And she was like, well, I'm in love with Josie.
I'm a lesbian.
And
can't tell mum, she'll disown me.
Oh yeah, mum was really anti the gays.
Like, she's like devout Catholic. She's like, so here we go. Here we are.
But the sisters were fine.
This is me.
They were like, love that for you. Emeline is such a like minor character.
Yeah.
In the story, and she was such a good character. Like there was nothing.
Very level-headed.
Yes.
Like, went about everything like kind of taking it all
person.
in and just not acting rash.
Yeah, she was like always Switzerland.
Yeah.
And then where do we want to go from here? Do we want to go to the major plot point with Sylvie? Is that really the next thing that happens? Well, her and William get married.
Yeah, they get married in the back of the library, which is a bit cute.
And then they're just kind of living life.
And they're all hunky-dory. Like, you can't... When they first got together, I was like, Sylvie, you are just as much of a bum-ass loser as William is. Because, one, why are you falling for the first man that speaks 10 words to you?
Yeah.
That's clinically insane. Two, have a little fucking loyalty to your sister. Like, I don't even care if this man can move water. Like...
Yeah. There's so many other men out there. You don't need to date your brother-in-law.
What the fuck? And like, even throughout their relationship, like I can't help but feel that like she kind of just settled a bit. Like he really didn't do much.
No, and that's why Julia left him, because Julia could see that he was never going to really bring anything to the table other than exist.
Yeah.
And whereas...
That's all that he does. Like, he doesn't do anything, like, super crazy. Like...
But Sylvia was just happy to, I think, reduce herself to just existing.
She just wanted someone to love her.
Yeah, which is crazy because I think the way that Charlie parented her and kind of raised her was, and he did this with a bit with Julia as well, was you are more than just becoming a wife and a mother and like you can do anything.
Yeah.
Right? Like you don't have to follow the norm. You can do whatever you want in life, like women's rights, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And she was just like, I'm just gonna babysit this man and be his crutch. And she was always so concerned about William, and she was like, if he doesn't have me, he will kill himself.
Yeah.
And that was like what motivated her through life, essentially.
Yeah. And I don't know, I kind of wanted I wanted her to want more for herself.
I really liked Sylvie leading up, like prior to her and William starting to go into cahoots. I was like, she is independent.
Yeah.
I think like she's such a strong character.
Yeah.
Similar to Julia, but Julia was just very aggressive about it.
Yeah.
And then the older they got, I was like, Sylvie, like you could have had so much more for your life. You were so independent, and then you just went, William, come here. And then it kind of switched for me, and I was like, I have way more respect for Julia, because even though she kind of jumped the gun and was like, William, you are good enough. I'm going to marry you based on who I think you'll be in 10 years' time. She saw it pretty quickly, and she immediately was like, nah, I don't need you.
Yeah, she dug her own hole, but she also built a rope to get herself out of it.
Yes, and then she went on and built this extremely successful life, did an amazing job at parenting Alice, like to the best of her ability. I think she did go a little bit too far with it. Like, you know, she very much was like, not a man. is ever going to come into my life.
Yeah, she was. I mean, but I get it though. Like, if you're that self-sufficient, like, what value does it bring?
Oh yeah, 100. Like, I'm not
Like,
saying like she had to like settle for anyone or just like look for some bum ass loser, but she very much like Fort Knox.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
She was
yeah,
like
yeah.
not interested.
But yeah, I don't know. It was just kind of like disappointing that, like, happy for them that it ended up that they were kind of like each other's person, but at the same time, I'm just like, why?
Yeah.
William did very little for me in this book.
The underlining thing with William as a whole was William was the worst character in the book.
Yeah, the takeaway is that William is a bum ass loser. Never grew out of that.
Always will be a bum ass loser. So Sylvie and William, they're just like living this life. Cecelia and Emeline are living this life. Emeline's dating Josie. Izzy's growing up. And then Sylvie gets sick.
Sylvie is starting to get headaches. Real bad headaches.
Just constant headaches. She goes to the doctor and then she learns that she has a tumour
in her head. And the specialist says terminal.
Yeah. Like,
and it's all over Red Rover, essentially.
You don't have long, pretty much. So she tells William. William is beside himself. He's like, what the hell? So he secretly goes and calls Julia.
Yeah, because he asked Sylvie, he's like, what do you need? And she like doesn't say anything. And he's like, I know that you need your sister.
Yeah.
Like, I know that out of anything in the world, you need Julia. But now we need to remember they haven't spoken to each other for 25 years.
Yeah.
That's how much time has passed.
Yeah. So he makes call to Julia. And she's like, why the fuck is this bum-ass loser man calling me? She answers. He's like, hey, Sylvie is dying. She has brain tumor. She's going to die. Julia's like, no.
She's like, I actually have meetings all day. I don't know if you understand that my Google Calendar is actually fully booked for today. And I don't have time for this, actually. Sorry.
Do you know what, though?
Like, minus the sorry.
As bad of a response as that is, I can kind of sympathize with her and understand, like, she is very type A. Like, she has a plan. Everything has to go to plan. Everything has to go to schedule. Something that she hasn't anticipated pops up and she just denies it.
Oh, it's the shock. Absolutely. It's the same thing that she did when fucking William tried to off himself.
Yeah.
But when I read it, I was like, Julia, you're a fucking bitch. Like, it's your sister.
Yes. And then she has this thought, and this is a quote from the book, where she got, because again, when they were growing up, they loved Little Women, and they would always have fights over who was who from Little Women. And Julia says after that phone call, like in her internal monologue, she goes, knowing that she was Jo, but only because Sylvie was Beth. I sobbed. I was like, okay. So then Sylvie's just like going about her life. She goes into this like bakery in like the town that they live in, or the city that they live in, and she sees this woman in front of her and she thinks it's Emeline, and she goes, that's not Emeline. And then the woman turns around, it's Julia.
In the flesh.
Has secretly come down to Chicago, and I think it was because she had plans to catch up with Sylvia, but she was just like, she needed a minute. She was just kind of easing into it.
Yeah.
So they then spend the day together, and there's a little bit of time of like ironing out the kinks because they haven't seen or spoken to one another in 25 years. But pretty much all is forgiven. They pick back up, and then Julia flies back out that night, and then she comes back and visits her one more time other than that, and they like go to the movies or whatever. So then there's a moment where Julia goes out for dinner with, and it's a secret, them hanging out.
No one knows.
Shush.
No one.
So then back in New York, Julia goes out for dinner with Alice, and Alice is like in college now, I think. And what was the premise of the dinner?
They always catch up on like this day for like a dinner or movies or something. Like, it's their set catch up, I'm pretty sure.
And then is it that Julia just comes out with it about Sylvie?
Or comes out that William's alive.
That's the bit that she leads with. She's like, So my sister Sylvie, who you know of but you've never met, or besides when you were like tiny, she's dying. She has a brain tumor. P.S. She's married to your dad. P.S. Your dad's not. Because Alice is like, what do you mean? What do you mean she is married? Don't you mean she was married to me? And she goes, no, your dad's alive.
Yep.
And Alice
Did
is
I
like,
stutter?
what the fuck is going on? She's like, what about the presentation I did back in like 5th grade? So Alice is like really overwhelmed by this. She leaves. She then starts this online investigation with her friends to dig up everything she can about her dad. And then
William works for like the Chicago Bulls now, by the way.
Completely
as
forgot.
like a physio, and he goes back to uni and studies physio and like rehab because he wants to be all about like managing players' injuries so that they don't kind of make them worse.
And like, don't be fooled because he's still a bum ass.
No, he's still a fucking
besides
bum ass
that,
loser.
right?
Yeah.
So Alice decides, I need to meet my dad. I'm going to go to Chicago. So she books a ticket on a whim. And she
doesn't tell Julia though.
No, she's not telling anyone. So she goes to Chicago. She goes straight from the airport to the Chicago Bulls headquarters, and she goes, I am here to see William.
That they just let anyone roll in.
Yeah, and the person behind the desk is like, wow, you look exactly like him. This is crazy. Anyway, so she's sitting there for ages, and the guy's like, oh, he's usually in by now. I've tried to call him. I don't know. Blah, blah. Anyway, the guy's like, listen, after hours, he's like, I don't know what's going on. He's not answering his phone. You know, maybe go somewhere and I'll let you know when he comes in. Like, give me your phone number, whatever. So she's like, fuck, what am I going to do? So she has Izzy's phone number because she somehow found it on the internet in her research moment. So she calls Izzy, and Izzy's like, oh my God, I cannot believe you need to come here immediately, right away. And then we find out, we switch to like William's perspective, and we find out Sylvie died.
Or no, because it's from Julia's point of view, because she gets a call from a Chicago number, and she's like, oh, who's calling me from Chicago? Like, maybe it's like Sylvie's like work or something, or a hospital. And like someone calls her, and I'm pretty sure that's how she finds out that, or maybe it's
because it's like
No, I think it's one of the twins calls Julia, and she's like, we didn't want this to be the way that you find out, but we want to tell you that Sylvie's sick. And Julia's like, no, I know, like I've been over to Chicago a couple of times, like we've kept it all hush hush, but like I've been seeing her on the fly.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, and the twins like, oh, I had no idea, but we wanted to like, you know, like kind of, we thought we had more time.
Yeah.
And Julie's like, no, like it's fine. Like, you know, we're kind of on talking terms now. Like, what are you talking about? And then the twins like, no, like Sylvie died.
She died. P.S. Alice is here at the house.
Yeah.
And
you need to come back to Chicago right now.
And she's like, what the fuck do you mean Alice is at the house? So then the end of the book, like the next part of the book is essentially them. They're all at the house. Like Julia comes, Alice is there. They're all grieving Sylvie dying.
Suddenly, yeah. So like they wait, like William and Sylvia are at their apartment. They wake up. William is gone like 20 minutes to go get Sylvie these donuts that she wants for breakfast. And he comes back and he finds her in the kitchen floor.
Yeah.
Gone.
So then while they're all grieving and like the house is like so chaotic, Alice is like, that's my dad. Just over there not acknowledging me, like whatever. But she's like, it's fine because I just need a minute. And then it's really just a lot of family comms, whatever.
Rose comes back
and she's so, because at this point Emeline and Josie are fostering this baby, and she says something like to Julia, she says something along the lines of like, I don't know why you would borrow a baby, but like
it's harmless. It's a harmless hobby.
It's a harmless hobby, each to their own. And it's like, as problematic as Rose was, that was really fucking funny.
She just doesn't give a fuck.
And then towards the end, finally Julia's like, I think you can go outside now, to Alice. Like, now's the time you can speak to your dad. Like, I think now's a good moment. So she goes outside and then they chat and then that's that.
And yeah, so everything kind of like, all of the drama that has happened throughout this book kind of gets resolved in that, like, everyone's forgiven one another. Like, the trauma and like the grief of losing Sylvie has made them realize, like, no, family is important. Like, it doesn't matter what has happened. Like,
they don't even, like, when Rose
they
arrives,
don't even acknowledge it. They just, yeah.
When Rose comes, Cecelia says to them all, she's like, we all just need to act like nothing's happened and we all just need to get on with it. There's no point hashing out the past with Rose, kind of thing, which is a big thing for Cecelia to say because she was the one who got shunned back when she was 17, 18. I loved this book. I think the way that the writer developed these characters and spoke about relationships and family and things like that is one of the best depictions I have ever come across. I love that all the characters were flawed in one way or another, but I equally love the fact that there were characters who, I feel like Cecelia and Emeline especially, who kind of were just very nonchalant, like where people would do abhorrent or like crazy things and they would just be like, maybe not the best thing, but we're just going to go with the flow. Yeah. Like very accepting of it. And this whole like forgiveness thing where people were just like,
it is
even
what it
though
is.
It's been 20 years, 25 years, whatever it is, we're not going to hold grudges. Like the way that Anne, the author, was able to show that, like, those flaws and then talk about forgiveness, I loved that.
I also like how there were real pivotal moments in the book, but we didn't dwell on them. Like, it was very realistic how it's done.
Yes.
Like, especially like with the deaths in the book, like people are here 1 minute and gone the next.
I think it was also because it wasn't necessarily about that moment in particular. It was about, the book was always about the relationships. So all the effort went into the relationships rather than like, yes, Charlie dying or Sylvie dying was really horrible, but the focus was more on the aftermath and the way that the people, like Julia or William or whoever, how they dealt with that and how it impacted their relationships afterwards.
Yeah, and I want to read this part from the book. This is one of the last few chapters from Alice's point of view. It occurred to Alice that she had left home to see her father and Sylvie had left her home, her life, which opened the possibility of a reunion with her own. This parallel was too much for Alice to consider further, but she felt like a physical sensation William's presence in the backyard. You know what Daddy would have said when he saw Sylvie, Julia said in a quiet voice. Emeline and Izzy nodded and Cecelia said, hello, beautiful. Oh my God, I'm going to start crying again.
Ew, cry.
Oh my God. Nah, that's so fucking sad.
And that's the other theme in the book where, like, with the Padavano family, if someone was born or would arrive into the family, someone else would leave or die. It was like a one in, one out situation. Like with Izzy being born and then Charlie dying. And then it was like
Rose leaving and Alice being born.
Yes. And then it was like Sylvie dying and Alice showing up on their doorstep on the same day. Like that was a big theme. The one last quote that rocked me towards the end of the book was when they all went to the house when Sylvie had passed and Kent had, like, you know, got all the basketball guys to come, and it said Kent had clearly summoned these men so William could be part of a team on that day when he was no longer part of a marriage.
Fuck.
Yeah.
I hate it here. Sick and twisted.
Yeah.
Sick and twisted.
This book, honestly, like, these characters, I think this is the best in this style of book. This is the best depiction of characters and their relationships that I have read.
Yeah, agreed.
Like, I loved Blue Sisters, but this is way better than Blue Sisters.
Yeah, it just deals with a lot more in a lot more nuanced way.
Yes, and there's something about how the way that Anne has made these characters, I keep coming back to this, so flawed yet still so likable.
Yeah.
Besides William.
Yeah, like there Don't get me wrong, there are parts where I wanted to punch him in the back of the head, but there's redeemable qualities in them.
Yes.
Other than William.
Other than William.
His only redeemable quality is getting a job with the Chicago Bulls.
Yes. It was so good. Oh my God, it was so good. I think I gave it 4 or 5 stars.
Yeah, I reckon
Fable.
I gave it 4 or 5 as well.
A great pick on your behalf.
Thank you.
Love this style of book. Have you watched Little Women?
No.
You should.
Yeah, I feel like it would be right up my alley after this.
I love that movie.
I have some questions about the book for you.
Okay. Wanted you to grow up, boy, it wasn't but
Here we go. If you could ask one character a question or give one character advice, what would it be and what would you say?
My question would be to Sylvie.
Mm-hmm.
And it would have been, if William didn't exist, what would you have done with your life? I don't think there's anything wrong with her working at the library. I think that's all fine. But just like, how do you go from being...
Do you reckon she would have settled and like stayed with Ed? The guy that comes over and they kind of boost like once?
But I just don't understand how you can be so like blasé about men and not really... She had no like ambition to marry or have kids. So then why would you settle? That's what I don't understand.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm like, if William wasn't in the picture, if William didn't exist, like from a romantic front, would you have kept just like being you and like hooking up with guys on the side as it suited you, or would you have settled for someone else?
Yeah, that's a good question.
What's your question?
Yeah, probably just to Sylvie. Just why? Why William?
My other question would be, because like towards the end of the book, particularly when Alice shows up, William starts to realize that giving her up was probably not the best decision that he made. I would question him and say, why does it take you 25 years to realize that giving up your child is an appropriate thing to do? I understand that you didn't want kids, but you should have said something. You still proactively took part.
The consequences of your own actions, yeah.
You can't then... It's one thing to need to put yourself first to fix yourself so that you can be a good father, but that doesn't mean you have to sign your rights away. Like, I don't understand why... Like, I would be like, why the fuck did it take you 25 years? What changed?
Level the fuck up.
Yeah, like, I just... Use your brain.
Like, why did you have to leave? Like, why did it take you coming to terms with the fact that you're losing the most important woman in your life to realize that you've treated your daughter the same way that your parents treated you?
That's the other thing.
I don't know. 2 + 2 = 4. You know what I mean?
And then I would be asking Rose and William hand in hand. I'd be going, you had such issues with the way that your parents treated you, and yet you went around and treated your children the exact same way.
Yeah, I'd have a few things to say to Rose. I'd be like, you are a fucking pot calling the kettle black type of bitch. Like, I'd be calling her out on all the shit that she did in this book, because she's like, she gave William shit, like, to Julia, because she's like, how can a parent just, like, run away from their child? Like, I can't even comprehend that. And she's doing the exact same thing to Cecelia.
Saying that in Florida.
Literally sold up the family home without a discussion, hightailed it out of there, doesn't even know her granddaughter.
Yeah.
Like, crazy. What do you think happens to the characters after the book ends? Do you reckon that William and Alice kind of rekindle their relationship and get closer?
I think so. I think Alice would move to Chicago for maybe not forever, but definitely for like at least 6 months. To
get to know her dad? Do you reckon Julia would move back?
No.
She'd stay in New York?
I think Julia stays in New York, but I think she visits quite often.
Yeah.
Like almost every other weekend kind of thing.
I see Alice and Izzy living together.
Yes. I think that Emeline and Josie end up like adopting a couple of kids.
Yeah.
And
do you think Cecelia and Rose make up?
I think so, because I think for Cecelia to be the one to be like, when Rose shows up, just sweep it all under the rug. I think that shows that she'd forgiven her mum years and years ago and she was able to move on. And I think they would make up because of Cecelia. I think Rose would be very stubborn and not change her mindset, and she wouldn't be like regretful in what she did. But I think Cecelia would, just who she is as a person, she's like, it's fine.
Could you, like, if you were in either Cecelia or Alice's shoes and your parent had essentially just like walked away and like dusted their hands off with you, could you ever forgive that?
I think I'm like Julia, where I'm like, nah.
Yeah.
Like her reaction to William leaving, even though like he tried to kill himself, she was like, no, he is a bum ass.
Yeah.
That's very much me, but I would like to be. I think it says a lot about Cecelia and Alice's character.
Yeah. I think I would be open to having a relationship with those people, but I don't think I could ever forgive them for walking out on me.
Yeah.
Like, I would always remember that, and that would always be in my mind.
Yeah.
And like kind of be like a wall.
Yes.
Like nah.
But like, it's also the fact that they were the first ones, like they made the first move. I would never. I'd be like, no, but you left me.
Yeah. Unless they're like come up and they're like apologetic and like pleading forgiveness and like are genuinely like remorseful for what they did.
See, that's where like the Julia in me comes out, and I'm like, I haven't needed you this whole time.
Yeah.
You're not going to add anything to my life because you haven't in the last 20 something years. Why would I suddenly make time for you?
Yeah. Great book.
Honestly,
Stellar.
Phenomenal read. Loved it.
Stellar book.
I think everyone should read it.
Yeah, I agreed. Everyone should read this book. And then for next month, for May, drum roll please, the book that we will be reading is The Ministry of Time by Kellyanne Bradley. Bradley. Yeah, word. Apologies if I've butchered that author's name. This is a rec from one of the girly pops in the Delulu Diaries book club, M. Kelly. Round of applause to M. Thank you. Thank you for the recommendation.
See, if you want
finally someone speaks.
If you want an opinion, you got to join the Fable book club.
Exactly. Like, we don't get joy out of picking. So if there's something you want to read, let us know, please.
I pick bad books.
We will absolutely take it into consideration and line it up. So please let us know. Thank you. But yeah, we'll switch that on the Fable app. Well, Caitlin will, because she knows how to do that.
Hell
and yeah, happy reading, troops.
Hell yeah.
Thanks for joining us for another month. It's been real.
Yes. If you're flying through, like if you want more books to read because the book club isn't enough, you should check out our individual fables. Danica's reading like There's No Fucking Tomorrow, but she's cheating because she's reading books that have like 7 pages. And then I am in a real lit fic phase. So always go check out what we're reading if you're wanting something else, because we've had some good reads personally.
And if you're on Goodreads,
what are you doing?
Fuck it off and go to Fable.
Only William would use Goodreads.
Yeah. Are you a bum-ass loser? No. Go to fucking Fable. All right. On that note, see you next month. Love you. Bye.